Hi there, welcome to this video where I'm going to be doing some back garden bird photography. Now the reason that I'm making today's video is really because of a visit to a local nature reserve that I did the other day, and I was really battling against the weather. It was raining and windy and I didn't see any birds that I could photograph. Yes, I did see some birds, but they're either from a long distance away or before I could get the camera to my eye, they'd flown off. And so I just came away with no photographs at all. And this was about the first time that this has ever happened in 4 years of making YouTube videos, that I've not got a photograph that I could put into a video. So what I did this morning is I spent about an hour in the hide in my garden, and I got lots of different photographs of birds just to show that you don't have to travel to nature reserves to get good photographs. So stay with me, because I'm going to show you, despite the disappointment of the other day, why this morning I've really enjoyed my photography. So before we get into hide, let's just have a little look at some of the footage from my visit to Coombs Valley. Now this video doesn't really do justice to how dark, wet and windy this day really was. It was awful conditions and I really probably shouldn't have even gone out. At this point down this path I did see what I suspect were some redwings, but they flew off and I didn't see them again. Earlier on I had seen some birds on some feeders, but because it was so dark, I had to lift the ISO up to about 2000, which made the shots possibly grainy, and even then I couldn't get the shutter speed very high, and so quite a few of the shots came out blurred as well. It just was a really challenging day. It wasn't very pleasant, and because it was so cold I didn't feel particularly creative either. And so before long I decided, after about an hour, that it was about time to head back to the car and call it a day. And this is the first time that I've had to do that on any of the shoots that I've been filming since I started YouTube. And unfortunately I went home with no photographs. So now we've come into the hide, I'm going to talk you through the birds that I saw this morning and give you some tips on how to identify them. What I tend to do when I'm taking photographs of birds is wait for them to land on branches that I've put out, because I think it looks more natural than taking photographs of them when they're on the feeders themselves. What I have done is I've made lots of videos where I've talked about how I've set up the perches that I take photographs on, so I'm not going to go into that in this video. If you are interested in setting up perches for your own setup in your back garden, then check out this video just up here, and I'll also link it down in the description. Now I never tire of coming and sitting out in the hide, and I can easily spend a couple of hours out here just photographing the birds. And even though they are fairly common, we don't get any really exotic birds here, I really just enjoy watching them and photographing them, because the time just seems to fly by really quickly, and it's a great way of tuning your camera skills as well. And it's been great getting used to the functions of the new Z8 that I've had, and it's really been a good training just to get me used to using the autofocus and making sure that I can quickly acquire focus lock on the birds. And I do this in several ways. I tend to use a wider box to acquire focus, and most of the time, especially when the birds are close, it picks up the birds really quickly. But occasionally I will need to just change to spot focus to really acquire the focus a little bit more successfully and quickly. And I've assigned a function button on the front of the camera just to switch into single spot mode, so I can lock on that focus really quickly, and then I can go back to the larger box and the autofocus will pick up the eye of the bird then once it's definitely found the focus lock. And I found this is the most effective way to just get really accurate focus. The first visitors I had this morning to the feeders were some blue tits. Now they tend to group together in families of up to 20 individuals, nightingales, especially in the winter as they search for food. They're really attractive little birds, and the blue and yellow on them really makes them stand out, and they're very tame, very friendly, and they usually are the first birds to come as soon as you've come and sat in the hide. Now, the next visitor we had to the garden was a robin, and at this time of year they're especially nice to see because I'm filming this on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas Day, and they're associated with Christmas. You see them often on Christmas cards, and their red breast really is very distinctive and stands out. I got some really nice shots this morning when the sun was out, and they stood out really nicely against the backdrop of some golden oak leaves that in the background. The male and the female look identical. The juveniles do look different because they're a kind of golden colour with brown spots. I got a visit from a male chaffinch. Now, the male chaffinch is a beautifully coloured bird with a blue-grey cap and pinky red rusty underparts. The female is not quite as colourful, it's more subdued, and it's a kind of browny yellowy colour, but they're still very attractive birds. At this time of year we get lots of blackbirds in our back garden. I made a video a few weeks ago taking photographs of fieldfare, and we also got lots of blackbirds. They tend to get attracted to the fallen apples from our apple tree, but they will also come and take food from the feeders and from the bird table as well. The male is black in colour with a very distinctive yellow beak, and the female is more brown in colour but has very similar markings to a thrush and really stands out, and they are very lovely birds as well. The nuthatch is one of my favourite little birds to see in the garden. You can often see it climbing up trees when you're in woodland, but it comes here to our feeders, and it's a bit like a woodpecker in a lot of ways, but it's a lot smaller. It feeds on nuts and seeds and insects, but it's really attractive, particularly the way it's quite agile, and you will often see it bent into very unusual poses, and I managed to take its photograph this morning. Another really stunning bird that I photographed this morning is a goldfinch. Now, it stands out because of its red face and then yellow flashes on the ends of its wings, and it's just a beautiful looking bird, and especially this morning in the warm sunlight it really made it stand out. Now, the collared dove is a pretty little pigeon, smaller in size than the standard pigeon, but distinctive because of its grey colour with a black collar on the back of its neck. Now, it can be found in woodland, in parkland and in back gardens as well, feeding on seed and grain on the ground. Now, it's also distinctive for its cooing sound. We did have a visit from a greenfinch. Now, the greenfinch that visited didn't have the really striking greeny yellow colour that a male has, so I suspect it was probably a juvenile that hadn't really fully developed its colour yet, because the standard male is very, very distinct, and this was a little bit more subdued, but still a lovely bird nonetheless. A very common visitor to most back gardens are great tits, and they can be identified because of their black head with white cheeks, and then a very yellow underbelly as well that really stands out, makes them very distinctive. They're also very brave and will often be one of the first visitors to the feeders. Now, the longer you sit in the hide, the more interesting the species are that you start to see, because when you first get into the hide, initially you start to see blue tits and great tits, robins, that are the braver birds that don't really mind the human presence, but there are certain other birds that wait for a fear level to reduce until they feel safe to approach the feeders. And so we got a visit from a jay as well today. Now, I didn't manage to photograph it because it only landed on the bird table, but I did take some video of it. I tend not to take photographs if they're on the bird table because I like to get photographs of them in their natural environment, but because it was on the bird table, I thought it was a great opportunity to take some video. We live here on the edge of woodland and farmland as well, and so we often get visits from pheasants, and so we had a couple of them this morning walk through the back paddock just here. I got a nice photograph and some video of those. I also got a really lovely photograph this morning of a dunnock. Now they are ground feeders mostly, so they're slightly more difficult to see because they're a browny colour, but I still really love the dunnock. They're a very attractive little bird, and when you get them in a lovely pose, they are really great to photograph. Then just as I was about to leave the hide, I spotted a wood pigeon in the top of a tree a little bit further away, but it still made for a really nice photograph just to finish off the morning. I've really enjoyed just sitting here this morning taking photographs of the birds with my Z8. The Z8 does make taking photographs of birds so much more pleasurable. Their autofocus is great. It tracks the birds because it's got an animal detection function, and so it locks onto the eyes of the birds really well, and it takes a lot of the effort out of following the birds and does some of the thinking for you. Now, if you are interested in more information about the Z8, I have recently done a 3-month review of my thoughts of the Z8, so I'll put a card up here and link that video as well down below in the description. I hope you found that video useful from the point of view of just showing that despite a disappointing visit to the nature reserve, I didn't let it dishearten me, because it's always good to have a plan B, and I know that my hide here in the garden can always provide me some great photographic opportunities. But it's also given me a good opportunity to give you some bird identification tips and just tell you the types of birds that visit our garden, and also a little bit about my camera as well. So at the end of the day, the disappointing visit to the nature reserve has turned out well, because I've had some really lovely photographs from the hide in my garden. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that video, and if you have, let me know down below in the comments. Nip over to my Instagram or Vero account, that's at Darrell Oakden Photography. Leave me your comments there, and you can also see lots of my photographs. Now, if you like what I do on the channel and want to help support me to make future content like this, then you can also visit my Teespring store. There I've got lots of merchandise available, so head off over there, check it out, because a purchase is very much appreciated. But you don't have to spend any money at all to support the channel. You can do that simply by clicking like, subscribe and the bell notifications. It really helps me out, and it makes sure that you don't miss out on any future content. Watch out for next week's video, that goes live on Sunday. In the meantime, you can go and check out this video just up here. But all that's left now is to say, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.